Hello, hello, and welcome to the Color Whisperer Show, where we talk about all things home and healing. And today we're going to talk about Mother's Day. Now, this has been a very interesting Mother's Day for me. Now, if you saw last year's show, I'm not going to cry this time, I promise. No, Mother's Day has been a difficult day for me for a long time. And it's not here yet, but so far I haven't gotten any of the little pangs and stuff. I'm celebrating Mother's Day with some friends this weekend, um so that's very nice. But I wanted to talk a little bit about some very interesting things that I noticed this year, and I haven't noticed them before. Doesn't mean they weren't out there. I didn't see them. And one of the things that I found very interesting is I got a lot of emails from retail places. I don't want to name names, and I don't know if I remember all the names anyway, but from retail places that allowed you to opt out of Mother's Day sales. Because when you're missing mom, you're watching TV, it's a Hallmark holiday. It's like, well, we're supposed to all be really happy and love our mothers and enjoying family that day. Well, excuse me. Well, not everybody's got that family to enjoy. And maybe you don't get along with your mom, and maybe, there's a lot of reasons why moms may not be present. So it's not a happy, feel good, I got a wonderful family holiday for everybody. And watching all those commercials and, go out on, everybody's advertising, oh, we're having a Mother's Day thing, we're having a Mother's Day this, and it hurts. And I would never tell anybody they shouldn't celebrate Mother's Day. Some of this PC stuff, it's like, it's like, well, I'm an atheist, so I shouldn't have to see Santa. Well, that's not okay. I don't think so. You don't want to, if you don't want to be around Santa, that's your thing. But I would never tell anybody not to celebrate their mother. And I would never, ever wish that somebody didn't celebrate Mother's Day just because I don't have one right now. Really, all the more so should you celebrate. It goes the other way. It's like, celebrate her while you have her, you know? Um, and I have a friend who's really struggling with her mom right now, and I'm just like, hey, look, you've got a mom. What can you do to work this out? She's not going to be there forever. Oh, it doesn't matter. There's still going to be an empty spot when she's not there. Even if it's full of strife and trouble at the moment, there's still a spot there. It's a very different feeling when you become the first generation. Very different. And I think it's kind of a big step in maturity. It's like when you become that first generation, something switches inside of you. So, anyway, I found it interesting that so many stores were giving you this opt out for all the Mother's Day deals. And I don't know what happened in the world to make this so, but I appreciate it. And then I was watching a TV show this week. I think it's called Abbott Elementary. Now, I've never seen the TV show. I think it's relatively new. And it dealt with this whole issue so beautifully. And I just sat there and I was like, wow, this is really cool. So all the teachers are doing things for Mother's Day. And there's a teacher who is a guy, which there aren't a lot of guy teachers anyway, but there's a guy teacher. And not all of his students did it. And so, while the other classes all have 20 his maybe had 15, and maybe less even. And they were putting stuff, decorating the hallway with their artwork for Mother's Day. And, one of the teachers or principal, I don't know what she was. She was more of a matriarch. Regardless, she was a matriarchal figure and some authority, be it perceived or be it real, I don't know. And she's like, well, don't you want your kids to all participate in this? This is a really important day. They should be celebrating their mothers. And he just quietly said, I let them choose. I let them choose if they wanted to do this or not. And I thought that was really wonderful. I thought, wow, and she's like, oh no, but they've got to. And he says, no, they don't have to. I give them the choice. And then it came out that his mother died when he was 9. So he was in all these classes and everybody's celebrating Mother's Day, and he's having to create all these little art pieces and it meant nothing to him. It made him cry. It probably brought up a lot of pain. And so as soon as he said, oh, my mom died when I was 9, they're, oh no, we're so sorry. We're so sorry. And then this lady, who's the matriarchal lady, she's like, oh, you have to come to my house for Mother's Day, and I won't take no for an answer. Well, his tradition was to go play golf on Mother's Day. He says, oh, the dads are gone. I got the whole range to myself. How cool is this? And I can just go do something I love and be at peace with the world. And I've done that myself. It's like, okay, what do I need to do to feel good today on Mother's Day? It may not be the traditional what other people think is right, whatever right means. There's no right way to celebrate a holiday, especially if that holiday is celebrating somebody that's not in your life. So he goes to this big fancy Mother's Day thing, and there's a big meal, and everybody's like, oh, blah 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 blah. They're all fawning over him, and it's a lot of attention, and that attention can be overwhelming, especially when it's like, well, he's like 30. He dealt with this, it's been 20 years, and I'm sorry. There we go. It's been 20 years. Like he's good, right? He's dealt with whatever he's needed dealt with. He's got his way of doing it. And I'm sorry, my printer's going like crazy, and I hope you can't hear it, but it's just suddenly making a ton of noise. And I don't know why. Anyway, it's been a tech week. I'll get into that later. Oh my goodness. So he goes through, and then they're a very Christian family. And so they lay healing hands on him, and they start praying over him and helping him to deal with, all this grief that he's not feeling. He's already dealt with the grief. He had his way of dealing with the grief. And when they started doing this healing hands praying thing, he's like, whoa, and I get that too. I was at a Bible study meeting once, and I don't know why, but we were talking about fathers, and for some reason I just started bawling, and I couldn't stop crying. I'm like, I didn't know what was wrong. Nothing was said that triggered me that I know of. Like I was doing fine, and then all of a sudden these tears just started pouring out. So I went to the bathroom and calmed down, and I came back out, and oh, we must all pray for you. Now, this was a group I'd belonged to for several months, and I don't keep a secret about my family story, so they knew my family story. And they each had to, quote unquote, pray for me. But what was interesting? None of them were praying for me. Not a single one. None of them related to my story. None of them said anything at all that related to me. They're praying for their own relationship with their Father. And maybe that's what really needed to happen that night. This is interesting talking about it out loud. I'm like, wow. So maybe I was just the vehicle for them to pray for themselves and their own relationships with their Father. Because nothing that any single one of them said had anything to do with me. They all knew my family story, and their words was very clear that they didn't remember, didn't think about it, didn't know. And I forget, there's like 8, 10 people, and each one had to pray for me. Oh my, I just, as each one went on, and they're saying stuff that made no sense to me. They're praying for things that I'm like, you're not talking about me. They were praying generic, make sure you have a good relationship with her Father. I'm like, my father's dead. I mean, just very generic stuff. Like, and it was so apparent that these people didn't know me at all. And these prayers felt so hollow to me in that moment. It was a nice gesture. I can appreciate where they were coming from and where their heart was, and I get it. I do get it. But in that moment where I was going through some emotional distress for reasons I didn't even understand, and they were trying to come up with the reason why, and I left there and I just was, as soon as they finished, I said, I gotta go. I can't take any more of this. It's time to go. And we got in the car, and my husband was there, and I said, what the, what was that? I said, we are never going back. I'm done. I'm done. I can't do this. I said, we've been going for like months. These people don't have a clue who I am. I didn't know why I was crying. And each of the prayers felt like they were psychoanalyzing me, trying to figure out, like, I grew up praying differently than this group did. I had this issue with this group for, since day one, the way that they pray. And everybody's got their way to pray. I'm not knocking, what that was their way and it worked for them. It's not how I was taught to pray. And that's not how I experience prayer. I'm not saying my way is the right way either, but it is what's right for me. And, I went to Catholic school, and at the beginning of religion period, we'd do a prayer and there'd be intentions. And intentions, people would just say, and it would be a sentence, maybe two. And it might be, I need a date for prom. It might be, we're going through a divorce and we're struggling and we need help. It might be, my grandma died and we're grieving. So it's very short, very simple. And how I was taught to pray was just having a conversation. It wasn't this, some people pray beautifully. There was a coach I followed for a while, and she used prayer at the beginning of her things, and they were the most beautiful prayers. I mean, truly works of art, literary works of art. Amazing. By the time she finished praying, you just felt like you could do anything. And I'm not that eloquent when I pray. It's very simple. Sometimes, there's a meme out there where there's a little girl and there's all the letters of the alphabet jumbled up over her head. And she says, God, I don't have any words. Here's all the letters. And so for me, going through this experience, all these people praying But honestly, they were praying for themselves, not for me. So I could really understand what this guy was feeling. And he's like, whoa, this isn't how I grieve. This isn't, it's 20 odd years later. This isn't how I grieve. This isn't what I need right now. It's what they needed to make them feel good about his presence there. It's what they needed to to feel good. This is how they felt good in their world, and they wanted to shower that on him, but they were treating him like it was an open wound and like it was a bleeding wound. And I don't know if you ever really get over a death, but it does stop hurting less. It changes when you learn how to cope with it. You learn, what do you need to work with this? And they were treating it like a bleeding wound. And it wasn't a bleeding wound for him at that point. When he was 9, when he was 10, when he was 12, when he was 16, when he was 18, maybe when he was 24, probably was a bleeding wound. At that point, he had found a way to make it make sense for him. And so he got up and he left. He's like, I'm not doing this. I got tea time. I'm ready to go. I came by, I did my thing, I stopped by, I made you feel good. I'm done. I'm out of here. And the matriarchal lady who was her house, she comes running after him and she's like, it's tradition. You have to do this. And he looked her straight in the eye and he says, it's your tradition. It's not mine. And I loved that. His tradition, what made him feel good was going to play golf. And we got to honor our own traditions, other people's traditions. It's not, oh, you shouldn't celebrate Mother's Day because I don't have a mother. That's bullshit. Let everybody celebrate in their own way. You got something to say, Mark?
No, just thinking about Mother's Day. I know that I am fortunate that my mama is still around. She'll turn actually near Mother's Day because her birthday is actually in the month of Mother's Day, like about a couple of weeks later. She'll turn the wonderful age of 82 and is definitely still involved. She's had a couple of health issues, like around some stuff around skin care and some other things that are going on. I actually had a dad that has possibly to have a heart valve replacement. So he had some preliminary surgery on yesterday, so that wasn't Mother's Day, but he seems like he's doing well. I was actually talking to his lady love because yes, you can have a lady love even when you're in your 80s, and they've been together for a number of years, multiple decades, and all of that. But I'm checking with
Well, I
Linda,
hope
and she
that
was
he's
saying
done.
that they have that he's doing well. He unfortunately had to wear like a piece of wood and that was on his dominant arm because they didn't want his hand to be overly active while he was recovering. But they did tell him that he could go back to swimming, just not to over exert himself while they try to decide what to do in order to keep him around for as long as they can keep him around, because eventually our bodies do wear out and everything. But I had one other thought that was crossing my mind, and I don't know, because you were talking about grief and everything, and I was actually thinking about a friend of mine, because I don't know, and this is getting away from Mother's Day just slightly. I don't know we ever really can get over when we lose somebody, but particularly when it is somebody that you're not expecting to be lost. Because there was a major professor, he actually did a documentary on yours truly that passed away recently, and it seemed like it was unexpected. I don't think there was anything criminal or anything, but it was an unexpected death. So I don't know whether it was natural causes or exactly how Kenneth passed, but he did pass, and he was relatively young. I want to say he was in his 30s or 40s, and I even remember another friend that passed away when he went and had like an asthma attack. This was decades ago, and was visiting a lake and everything, and he unfortunately perished at a young age. So I sometimes wonder, there's always that uh, why them kind of attitude that people have, because nobody knows why the Most High, if that's the term you want to use,
I think that,
chooses to do what goes on.
we expect to bury our parents,
Mm-hmm.
and my dad died. He was 86 years old. he'd had a good life, his body was wearing out, and really it was like, it's okay, go. You've done everything you can do, go.
Mhm.
You know? And the pain he was in, I wouldn't wish on anybody,
Right.
right? And so we're okay. I mean, not that that doesn't hurt, but it seems like a natural course of things.
Right.
Yes, you still miss somebody, but it's a natural course of things. I have two friends that have lost children,
Mhm.
one at 6 months, one at 3 years.
Wow.
And they still, everybody deals with grief differently.
Right.
And when it's a child like that, or even somebody in their 30s, it's not just the person dying, it's all the dreams dying.
Hmm.
I'll never get to walk my kid down the aisle. I'll never get to see them learn how to drive. I'll never get to see them this. I'll never get to see, I'll never get, there's all those things that we expect to do that you'll never get to have. And it's really about the dream dying. With my miscarriage, it's like I didn't get to believe I was a mom very long, but and especially with the second one, when I knew there wasn't going to be any more, they butchered me when they did the DNC. They they put a lot of scar tissue, and
Right.
had I been 20 years old and 100% capability of getting pregnant again, it would have brought me down to 10%.
Wow.
I was 45 and I probably started at 10% because we had a hard time getting pregnant. And so I probably started at 10%. So my odds were in the negative of getting pregnant again. And at that point, I wasn't willing to go through the process of possibly having another miscarriage again anyway. So
Mhm.
it was okay for me. But had I been 20, the DNC isn't as safe as they want you to believe. I'm
Mhm.
not the only person that's had this issue. And anyway, but
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
when a child is lost, it's dreams that are lost.
Mhm.
It's all the woulda, couldas, yeah. And many people have children to continue to keep their presence on earth longer. It's their legacy, And so, and truly, when our child dies, it's a part of us.
Mhm.
A parent dies, it's part of us. We literally have each other's DNA,
Yep.
right?
Agreed. Yep.
And I remember when my mom died, I was really, struggling one day, and we looked in the mirror, and I happened to have a picture out of her, and I looked at my hand and like, I look just like my mom, you
Mhm.
know? Literally, she's in my DNA. She's here. She's in my heart. All the memories, all the things she taught me about how to live life. Like,
It's so.
none of that is dead. And so when a child dies or a young adult dies, that dies as well. And so it doesn't, in both of these two women's cases, they do memorials on the anniversary of the child's death.
Mhm.
I choose not to do that for my miscarriage, and I'm grateful that you know,
What do you
I
think?
wasn't gonna get to hold it. I'm glad that it went before I got to hold. I mean, I would love nothing more than to hold my baby, but at the same time, that's such a deep grief,
Oh, yes, it's very deep grief, and different people have different ways to deal with it. I have a friend of mine that I dated for a while and everything that was very close to her mom. As a matter of fact, she and her mom used to do travels on cruises and everything. And after her mom passed, and as far as I know, she still carries around the urn of her mother and all along those lines. And I don't know how I would necessarily feel about that should something happen to my mom or even my dad, because that to me it doesn't work for me and everything. But like I said, that just might be me and
Well,
kind of my own belief system. So,
they do make jewelry that has their little pendants, and you can put some of the ashes in them, and then you can wear them. And they're not. Some of them are they don't look like. I mean, if you know what it is, you know what it is.
right.
But some of them are very clever, and it looks like a piece of jewelry. And most people are not going to notice that it's not unless they're in that space with you, and then they'll go, oh, you know. But
Mhm.
it's not something like when I after the miscarriage, I wanted something to memorialize the child.
Mhm.
And I started looking online, and there's all these little baby feet with a heart or
Mhm.
baby feet on a necklace. And I'm like, no, no, that didn't work for me. Now, for some people, it's great. For me, I was like, that was just a reminder of the death for me. And I wanted something that reminded me of their existence. And I've showed you guys the necklace, I'm pretty sure. But I had a friend make a necklace for me, and it's a little pod. And my baby only went to about 8 weeks.
Mhm.
One was 6 weeks, and one was 8 weeks. So they're just a little pod at that point. And I saw it had holes in it.
Yeah.
And then we built the necklace around that little pod. It was a wood carving, and we got done. And my friend who made it for me, she says, Jeanette, do you realize these are dragonflies?
Mhm.
And I didn't see it. I just picked, I said, this one feels good. I do a lot of that. That's why I'm the color whisperer. I do a lot of that.
No, you do a great job of doing that color thing and all along those lines, and that's a great thing. I had forgotten. I think I might have mentioned this last year when we were talking about Mother's Day and everything. But apparently, at least the founder of Mother's Day here in this area, that being Anna Jarvis, who was definitely the person that was behind its creation back in 1988 and
Oh,
1908 and
I read
everything.
about
And
that.
apparently, she later denounced the holiday because she was afraid that it had gotten too commercialized and spent the latter part of her life trying to remove it from the calendar. So even though she was the one that created it, apparently she was not too thrilled with the kind of commercialization that Mother's Day has had, which is kind of what you were alluding to earlier and everything. But yeah, she was not even though she's the one that actually came up with this notion, at least here in the US and everything, she later got a little bit upset at the commercialization of it.
Do you know why, or do you know more about the history of why it was invented?
Um, just what I've read about her, it says that the origins of Mother's Day as celebrated in the United States dates back to the 19th century and the years before the Civil War. Anne Reeves Jarvis of West Virginia helped start the Mother's Day work clubs to teach local women how to properly care for their children. These clubs later became a unifying force in a region of the country still divided over the Civil War. And in 1868, Jarvis organized Mother's Friendship Day, at which mothers gathered with former Union and Confederate soldiers to promote reconciliation. So it looks like there might have even been some conversation around the divided nation and everything. So it looks like another precursor to Mother's Day came from the abolitionist and suffragette Julia Ward Howe. And in 1870, she wrote the Mother's Day Proclamation, a call to action that asked mothers to unite in promoting world peace. So it looks like in 1873, Howe campaigned for a Mother's Peace Day to be celebrated every June 2nd. So a peace day would be a wonderful thing to have and everything. And they also mentioned another pioneer, which included Juliet Calhoun Blakely. I wonder if she's related to, I think that's the way that the founder of the network spells her last name as well, a temperance activist who inspired a local Mother's Day in Albion, Michigan in the 1870s. So there's a couple of women that were involved in this, and it looks like a lot of it was around peace and also around childhood and a number of other things as well.
Oh, yeah, well, the suffragette movement, that was huge. And the
Mhm.
temperance, they were connected. The suffragette and the temperance movement were connected because back then drinking, I mean, we think we have issues with drinking now, but they had a lot of issues with drinking. And depending on how far back you go, a lot of people didn't really even drink water because the water was not great. So,
Right.
it was not uncommon to, like, you'd have ale with breakfast. Now, I don't know if the ale was the same as the ale that we have now,
Mhm.
but you'd have ale with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You might have two or three glass, and then the women often suffered from that because people are not always the nicest when they're drunk. And so the suffragette movement and the temperance movement really worked together to create freedom for each other and
Right.
independence, and to not have to be subjected to any of that.
Exactly. That's a good thing. And it was used as a launching off point for other movements as well, because apparently in 1968, Coretta Scott King used Mother's Day to host a march in support of underprivileged women and children. And in the 1970s, women's groups also used the holiday as a time to highlight the need for equal rights and access to childcare. So it has been used for a number of reasons, even though some people might find it to be, in some ways, a sexist holiday because it may not always be. It's kind of like putting women in some cases in like a traditional role or a traditional box and everything. So I'm actually surprised that the feminists used it in that.
How is it more? I mean, does that mean Father's Day is sexist?
Well, that could be. I'm just saying, but they're kind of like sticking people in traditional roles. That's what I was thinking and everything. And I think that you can have, because one of the things that I heard about Mother's Day and all along those lines was it was actually celebrating, or at least it was intended to celebrate, kind of the not just motherhood but maternal bonds and the influence of mothers in society. And there are some, because of whatever is going on in life, there are some fathers that have to play that mother's role, just like there's some mothers that have
Right,
to play the father's
right.
role as well. So I think that on Mother's Day, that those fathers that are playing the mother's role or the maternal role should also be celebrated, and because they
Sure.
need, and
You
vice
know,
versa with the fathers that are. I mean, the mothers that are playing fathers' roles, that they should be celebrated on Father's Day. So
absolutely.
I think it's actually more about
And it's not
role.
even just that. Like when my niece and nephew, I played a very big role in them, in raising them. And one Mother's Day, my niece was about 6 years old, and they, my mom and, we were all coming. We were all getting together and going to spend the day together. And so the doorbell rang, and there's my niece at 6, and she had a bouquet of flowers, and she says, "Happy Mother's Day." And I'm like, "Oh, but I'm not, I'm like, I'm not your mommy, honey." She goes, "Aunts are mommies too."
Exactly.
And it was very special because whenever they would come over, she wanted to walk to the grocery store. That was a big deal for her. So we would walk to Trader Joe's, and she always wanted to buy flowers. So we got her flowers. She'd get flowers. And so we'd have them for her while she was here. So that morning they got off the freeway, and she's like, "Oh, we have to have something for Jeanette. We have to buy her flowers." My parents didn't know where to go, but she did. And so she led them away to Trader Joe's, and she got the flowers, and she was so proud of herself. And, we are mothers in so many ways, and fathers in so many ways. And it's not just about giving birth. It's, did you have a role in somebody's life? And, sometimes it's just in friendship. I mean, I have a couple friends who, you know, Mother's Day is difficult for them. I called them up. I said, "Hey, you know, you want to do something?" And yeah, and I have another friend who, after my mom died, she's like, "You can come spend Mother's Day with us." And I'm like, I told her, I said, "Thank you so much." And it means a lot to me. And there's enough of her mother that is like my mother, that I was like, no, I don't want that. Because it just was a reminder of, it was more of a reminder of what I don't have
Right.
me, than putting myself in that situation of, you know, it's not my mom. It's not my mom. And this woman can't be my mom, even though she's like my mom. That's not a hole that can be filled. And so being with people who have also lost their moms,
Right.
and finding, you know, it makes it easier. It's
Mhm.
just, or whose parents are absent. For years, I had a friend that we'd get together on Mother's Day. Well, her mom's back east. She calls her in the morning and talk for 10 minutes. They don't have the world's greatest relationship, but she talks for 10 minutes, and then, it's done. And the she wanted some, she needed that space too. But it's not just, oh, let's go have a happy day. We all got to have our own traditions. How do we deal with it?
Yeah, we have our own traditions and their different holidays, and maybe this is a card like what your niece sent you and everything because I found this, and this was somebody
Yeah.
that was a card that was sent on Mother's Day that somebody sent. It said, "For my aunt,
Oh,
Happy Mother's Day," and all along those lines. And it definitely, I can't read all of it, but it says, "I'm so lucky to have a woman as wise and kind as you in my life," and everything along those lines. And I'm sure there's more sending you a warm Mother's Day, I think is what the rest of it says and everything. But definitely, that's maybe something similar to what you got and everything. I did not realize until I looked it up that I think it's on July 26th. There is actually a Aunt and Uncle's Day. So I
is
actually have
there?
a day that it is apparently this year it is on July 26th because they've got
I'll
siblings.
have to let them know.
There
We'll
is
see
an
if they do anything, but I let them know.
Yes, apparently in the year of 2024, National Aunt and Uncle Day is being celebrated on July 26th, 2024, and being celebrated around the world. So, yes, there is a National Aunt and Uncle Day, so you can celebrate your aunt and uncle on July 26th of this
Aunts
year.
and uncles are very important.
Yeah, it says National Aunt and Uncle Day is celebrated every July 26th. Our aunts and uncles are unique parts of our family. They can be like a second set of parents or great friends you happen to be related to. Often they've watched us growing up and are full of stories about things we did in our youth we might not even remember. July is a great month for a cookout or outdoor activities. Call up your aunts and uncles and ask them to come out and celebrate their special place in your life. So yeah, there's a whole day for the aunts and uncles as well. Who
Maybe I'll
knew?
take them out to dinner. They should
Yeah,
take me out
maybe.
to dinner, but well.
Well, maybe they'll take you out to dinner and everything. And then there's National Siblings Day, so I got to figure out whether I'm going to do something with my brother because apparently that is my only sibling that I have and everything. But then I have to find out when that day is. I did know because I don't have any living ones right now that there is a Grandparents Day as well. So yes, there is a National Sibling Day. It's actually already passed. That was last month on April 10th, and apparently it's been gaining momentum as well. So definitely, there's a day that you can celebrate your family member that is a sibling and all in that space, and that takes place on April 10th and all in that kind of way. And there's even a Siblings Day Foundation and everything. So yeah, there's all kinds of things going on, including the lawnmower going on in the background and all in that space. So they're doing a little bit of the typical yard work and all in that space and everything. So
I mean, the days are wonderful, but really, you just got to tell the people you care about, I love you. You just got to say, I love you every day. The last time I saw my mom, it was, I'm pretty sure she knew she was dying. And for the month before that, she just, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I just can't deal with, XYZ anymore. And I'm like, okay, I thought she was just going to be strong and stop, let go of it. Well, she did, but not the way I expected. And she's like, I want a daughter day. I want a daughter day. I'm like, okay, we'll go have a daughter day. And we tried to make a couple plans and it didn't work. And then I said, well, mom, I can come here. I can come here. And I had a couple days. I went over, spent a little time with her, and she, we spent some time in the backyard with the grandkids, and um, then we went out to lunch, and it was a weird lunch in ways that I can only look back and it makes any sense. But something felt different, and nobody talked during lunch. And it just, it was strange. Nobody said a word during lunch. We just sat there and we ate. And then when she said goodbye, there was something different about the way she said goodbye. And I got in my car and I had this feeling like that was different. It didn't connect in my head that that was the last time I would see her, but I knew something big had just clicked. I did feel that. And the next morning, I got up and I have a pond in my backyard. And there was all these plants in it. And the day before, there was not a single bloom. That day, I looked in the pond, every single one was blooming. And I remember looking at that and went, wow, this is amazing. I knew it had some significance. I didn't know what it was. I knew it had some significance. And I had a networking meeting that morning, so my phone was turned off. And I got back out of it, and there's all these messages. I'm like, holy crap. I get home. Sean was still here, which I looked at him and I said, who died? And I saw the look on his face. And I'm like, oh my God, who died? You know, because it was kind of a joke. Well, you wouldn't still be home unless something really important had happened. And he says, you got to sit down. I said, it's your mom. I said, I don't got to sit down. We got to get over there now. And so you don't know when the last time you're going to see somebody is. And if you always say, I love you, then there's no, she didn't know, there's no regrets. It's like, and it was just this really weird silence at lunch. And, I give her a big hug goodbye. And, you know, I've got peace with that. I got to see her the day before, you know, there were,
Mhm.
but it's why it's not worth, keeping arguments going, you know,
Yeah, I
it's,
definitely agree with
it's
you on
just
that.
not, find a solution. It's not worth it.
Not only that, but I agree with something you said because that's generally whether it's talking to dad or even talking to mom, and I try to talk to them. They're fairly regularly. Matter of fact, some weeks it's almost like daily, but at least 3 or 4 times a week that I am definitely calling mom and quite often dad as well, checking in on them and all along those lines. And I can tell you definitely with mom and even with my aunt and everything, that's usually how we end the call is by saying that we love each other. So we're both let each other know that we love each other, and that's probably the best way to end any call. So that's almost something that we do on a regular basis. So if mom was handing up the phone, she'll be like, "Love you, Mark," or I'll say something similar, and that is oftentimes how we end the call to let us know that no matter what's going on and no matter what might be, uh, if that might be the last time being said, that that's the way that you remember that person and all
Right.
along those lines. So I think that that is a very positive thing that we do as a tradition. And speaking of traditions, just to change the subject slightly, but still staying with family, I had a very special treat that I got because some cultures are better, and I think you would agree with me in terms of being generationally connected and being connected over multiple generations. And my next door neighbors, I'm a little bit confused because I think that they lived because this is a country that has been fighting each other, but I think that they lived in Ethiopia and Eritrea. So I'm not sure whether they're Eritrean or Ethiopian, but I think that they lived in both of those countries, which is in the African nation. And there was a time that I think they might have been the same country, just kind of like with Russia and Ukraine and everything. But I've been smelling these wonderful odors that were coming out, and she has 6 kids and all along those lines. So on Sunday, this past Sunday, which would have been their version of Passover and everything, one of the sons was here and they had a bunch of his kids running around. Like I said, he is one of 6. I think he said it's 4 boys and 2 girls or something like that, that this young lady that lives next to me has and everything. But one of the kids came by and they were going to take the food because it's like a big community celebration. They persuaded their mother to give me a sample of the food. So I had some chicken and some beef that was put up in the bread that is kind of like what they used to eat the food with and everything. It has a name and everything. But yes, I had a plate that lasted for about 2 or 3 days and it was very good. It
Oh
included
yeah. They
the
don't cook for a meal. They cook for like, they cook for a week. Like if you don't go home with a couple meals, yeah,
right.
they didn't do their job.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. So, like I said, they were
yeah.
going to the celebration, and I think the celebration was at a church that they are affiliated with and everything. But yeah, they definitely made sure that their neighbor got a plate. So I appreciated that, and I got to return the plate back at some point the day or over the weekend. But that was great because, like I said, that was one of my moments of fun. In addition to the other one I told you about, which was our local museum or one of the local museums, the National Museum, was having their community celebration. So I got to see some young kids doing African dance and traditional African dance, as well as some folks that were doing some Latin American dance as well. And then they were giving away free Loco Pops, which is one of our ice cream stores and everything. So I got a free little bit of ice cream. I only got one stick, so I did not get greedy and everything. But they did offer some free ice cream, and I was actually, as I put it in my Yelp review, I was being kind of mild. I didn't like get exotic because I think they had some exotic flavors. I just went with the orange mango. So I said in my review, maybe next time I'll get a little bit more daring. So I think it was something that was a little fairly traditional. It wasn't vanilla, it wasn't chocolate, but it was still fairly traditional. But next time I might get a little bit more bolder and everything. But it was still
Do
fun.
you have shaved ice over there? Like, so here we have snow cones, which is,
Yes.
but in the South, in Louisiana, they have something called shaved ice, or they call it, what do they call it? They call it it's something else, but it's closer to, it's got more of a consistency of ice cream. It's not, what do they call it? My brain just blinked.
So
But
actually, it was a place
is
across
it
the
snowball? A snowball or something like
snowball,
that?
and the place that was across from Hayti. I actually just noticed that they were boarded up recently and they were doing some renovation. But yes, there was a shaved ice place that was Pelican Snowballs that was literally across the street from my cultural arts center that I work at and everything. And they have a couple of these stores that are around, but the one that's right across from me, it looks like it was at least temporarily closed. I hope it's only temporary, but I do know that they're doing some renovations as well. So it may be that they have to move to a new location, even though they still have a little house. But yeah, they do those shaved ice kind of things that you're
They're
talking
so
about.
good.
Oh,
I never had one till I went to New Orleans, and I was like, "Oh, this is amazing." And I don't, if they have them here, I haven't seen them.
oh
But
yeah.
um yeah, it's definitely a southern treat. I didn't know if you were far enough south for that treat.
Yes, definitely. That I'm far enough south so that treat we have them, and they are delicious, and they oftentimes come in all kinds of crazy flavors. And that I
Yeah.
have been bold and gotten some of the different and interesting flavors and everything. Because they are that one that I was talking about. I think they had like about, oh, it had to been over 100 flavors that they had, and I did try not all of the 100, not even half, not even a tenth of them, but I did try a few of them, and some of them going like, this is very good and everything. So yes, snowballs are wonderful, and we also have like some. Uh, they're not food trucks, but like some of the carts that will go out and have them as well. So they're like food carts, and some of the food carts are shaved ice carts. So yes, that is very much of a southern thing that has reached North Carolina as well.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, so you have to come over here and grab some of them because they are totally delicious and
Oh my
wonderful.
God, they're so good. They're so good.
They are just incredibly good and all in that space and everything. So
Oh,
yeah, I'll probably give mom a call later on. Go probably maybe later on today, but definitely on Saturday, and of course on Sunday on Mother's Day, I will reach out to her and see what she's doing because it's a work day, unfortunately for me. It's a day that we have our church and everything that meets at Hayti, so I don't know if I will physically see her, but I may actually surprise her and see her. But we'll definitely spend some quality time one way or the other, whether it's on phone or in person, and she might even come down here and surprise my nephews and therefore surprise me as well. So there's no telling with mom what she'll decide to do.
well, I know you have a great relationship with her, and
Yes.
enjoy it because you're very lucky to be your age and still have her.
Oh
So,
yeah.
you know,
It is
it's
a
it's
it is a blessing to have both her and dad. And I know some of my friends that don't, but then I'm amazed. One of my good friends, who's one of my running buddies, we actually run to events quite often. As a matter of fact, we went to that Nasher event. His mother, and yes, he actually lives with his mother because they both have health concerns. I think I've talked to you before about Ray because Ray is a multiple stroke survivor, and his mom is definitely up there in age as well. Because I want to
they
say
take
that
care of
when
each
we were
other.
talking, his mom is like in her mid to late 90s. So he is in his now pushing around the 60 age as well. I don't think he's quite got there, but I think he's pushing near 60 and all in
She's
that.
hanging on for him.
Huh?
She's hanging on for him. She may outlive him.
It's
She's
quite
hanging on for him.
that's quite possible. Yeah, because they take care of each other. I mean,
Yeah,
because a lot of times he is a caretaker for her in the sense of running to get her medicine and everything. But yeah, they are taking care of each other, and he is not the
I would.
only he's not the only um kid that she's had because he's also got a couple of brother as well as some nephews, and I think there's a maybe a sister in there as well, and maybe even two brothers because he lost one of his brothers if I remember correctly and everything. But there are quite a few of So that's what we're talking about. She actually lost at least one of her kids. I don't know how many others she might have lost, but she lost one. But they live together in the same house, and they are very codependent on each other.
I
You
wouldn't
know,
be surprised if one of them dies, the other one dies very soon after.
yeah, I would not be surprised about that
Yeah.
because, but then sometimes people surprise me because another friend of mine, his mother lived into her hundreds and everything along those lines. He's got some health concerns as well, but she passed, I want to say several years, a few years back, and all in that space. It was definitely during the pandemic era and all in that era, but definitely Mr. McLaughlin, who is a musician as well as a pharmacist, he had got some health issues, but he still seems to be very active in everything. Because I'm sometimes surprised. I don't know if you are when because you always hear that notion of when one leaves, the other isn't far behind. But I've actually been, and I need to reach out to Stanley. But Stanley lost his wife. Stanley Baird is a jazz musician, and he lost his wife fairly recently, like in the last, I'd say within the last year, if not even less than that time and everything. But he's now thinking about, he just came back from a cruise because he's doing the cruise after his wife passed, and now he wants to write a book, but he wants me to help him ghostwrite it. So that's why I have to call him just to
Nice.
figure out how I can help him ghostwrite that
Well,
book. And
the statistics are that if the woman dies first, the man either remarries or dies within a year. And what they really translate is he's got to have purpose.
gotcha.
After my mom died, my dad still had purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And otherwise I know he would have been gone. If that purpose, if that purpose was gone, he would have died, no question.
Right.
And so your friend is finding purpose again.
Yes, he does. He does have purpose.
And so he'll be okay because generally speaking, men don't create the bonds that women do.
Right.
Women, we have our girlfriend, women tend to have more girlfriends, more deeper relationships with girlfriends. And guys, you guys bond differently. You guys have, oh, let's go play basketball together.
Right.
And so you don't necessarily get together and talk about emotions and stuff the way that women do. And it just is, and so when those emotions become overwhelming, and if a man is only used to expressing those emotions with a wife who's no longer there, and he doesn't have another outlet for it, it literally builds up inside. And but he's finding purpose, and that's awesome. So his grieving is going really well,
Yeah.
and he should write a book. That's incredible.
Well, he's done a lot of amazing things
That's incredible.
in the
So
musical
he's
world and
finding
in
purpose.
other worlds as well. So I'm definitely gonna reach out to him and look out for him and everything. You know, speaking of Mother's Day, I've also got to give a shout out to another mother that is very important and everything. Because, like I said, well, one I was talking to Linda, which is my dad's other half and everything, and she was mentioning that both of her kids, Adam and Leah, are writing books. As a matter of fact, I think Leah is writing her book with a business partner that is in, I want to say it was either Spain or one of the other European countries and all along those lines. So she's actually might even been an Asian country like Singapore or something, but she's actually in that country right now with that partner, not the life partner because she has a life partner as well, but like a friend partner that has helped her write this particular book and everything. But the other thing I was going to mention really quickly is that Celia, who is my brother's other half and everything, she had something that a lot of mothers will be dealing with this weekend, which is graduation. So she learned that her daughter, which is Effie, and then you've heard me talk about Effie before and everything, that Effie has graduated from East Carolina with a teaching degree. So she'll be in the
Yay!
teaching field, being a teacher in the very, well,
God
she's
bless
already
her.
doing teacher, like that teacher work kind of project and everything, but she'll be a full-time regular, not just an academic teacher, but a teacher. Not when I say academic teacher, I mean a teacher that's going through both the training as well as the teaching, but she'll be a regular teacher at somebody's school system very soon. And her brother Jack just got accepted into North Carolina State in the engineering program. So he graduated the high school and getting ready to head to college himself. So they went to separate colleges, but they definitely graduated. I think State is where Celia went to school at, which is his mother and everything. But yeah, he's off to college to study engineering, and his sister has got her teaching degree.
That's awesome. So it's Mother's Day, and if you don't know what to get for your mother, get her some Kendu spice because
That's
it's
right.
good. Have a happy Mother's Day and enjoy whatever tradition you need for you to celebrate.
Happy Mother's Day and also happy graduation day because today is
Yep.
graduation day for a lot of college
Yep.
kids, not just in North Carolina, but around the world as well. So, like you said, they can get them Kindle spices to fix those graduation meals and everything. So, that can go with that as well. So, let's check out Kindle Spice and get on out of here. And you surprised yourself because it almost made it a full hour at all in that. So,
You know how people love to enjoy food and don't understand how to flavor their food or how to replicate a meal? They're interested in supplements but don't know where to begin? Well, what I do is I take the guesswork out of enjoying flavor and wellness with my flavorful spice blends so that they can create delicious meals with healing benefits. Can Do Spice was created to help cooks at any level enjoy healing through food. Every spice blend was designed to give added health benefits of natural herbs. Every blend is complete. There's no need to add any additional spice for a delicious meal. Saving you time and money while adding supplements to your meals can be both tasty and fun. My earliest memories in the kitchen began with my father, Kenny Can Do Bond, so it was fitting that I would name this line after him. I have always looked to natural remedies to supplement the body, and I found myself hiding herbs and minerals in foods for my family. That's when it hit me. Everyone needs Can Do Spice. Everyone should be having this. It's an exclusive brand for cooks at any level who want to create flavorful dishes with healing benefits that can satisfy the body and soul. Add a little spice to your life. Give Can Do Spice a try.